started. Before we start, I want to introduce Gail Morrison is going to present Mike with an alumni pin. So with that, we'll start there, and then Mike will give his stand and we'll do the interview afterwards. So, all right, with that, please.
You do? I know you didn't know, but you didn't wake up this morning and realize you have a little pin from your waist. So, as you know, Inver Hills, we're very proud of our alumni, and here's another alum. I just learned that Mike is an alum of Inver Hills and went here from 2009 to 2011, 8 to 11, I think.
Yeah, right.
And went to high school in the area. But, you know, our alumni go on to do fabulous things. I know of alum that are doctors, that are lawyers, that are CPAs, and just, you know, really make fabulous contributions in their field. I even know of an alum who was the drummer in Cheap Trick. Now that's a big deal. He just was out getting a...
From here?
Yeah.
Wow.
He went to school here. Yeah. And then now he's a banker. But anyway, Mike's path is certainly a very interesting path, and we're so proud that you're doing well in your field and actually at the top of your field, it sounds like, in Minnesota. So we're very proud of you. And I want to present you with an alumni pin. And wear proudly.
Yeah,
and tell people you went to Inver Hills and encourage others to do so. Okay?
Go to the Inver Hills?
Yeah, go to Inver Hills.
Okay.
All right.
I
Assuming you had a good
referral
experience.
bonus for that?
Every person you send to Inver Hills, the foundation gets $40. Okay, so congratulations.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do that. Do I just go right into it?
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, proud to present Mike Early.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Please, right.
Doesn't work. That sort of works. Good to be here. Hope you're doing well. Doing pretty well. I did go here. Liked it. Community college, it's sort of like a real college, except everyone's invited. I went to the U after this, and I always felt like dropping out of college, but you'd always tell people that, and they'd give me these reactions. I was talking to a friend, I'm like, yeah man, I'm not feeling it, I think I'm just going to drop out. It's like, well, you got to do what you got to do, which was kind of discouraging, because I thought it was like a follow your heart moment. You got to do what you got to do, is what you say to a criminal who you don't agree with. So what they're doing doesn't affect you directly. Yeah, man, I've just been driving off without paying. It's like, well, you got to do what you got to do. They're not interchangeable. It's not like, yeah, I've been stealing gas all week. Follow your heart, man. Don't stop. Anyway, so talk to myself a lot in my car. Say stuff I just don't say around other people. Like, I'll be driving around, I'll be like, fuck you, I'm not doing that shit. Fuck you, I'm not going to do it. You know, because in reality, I'm probably going to end up doing it. My car is like a workshop where I aggressively stick up for myself. You know? I think that's why people like Donald Trump, they're like, yeah, that guy sounds like I sound in my car. Vote for me in my car this year. So I'm 26, I'm an adult, do adult things. Bought some condoms recently, so I should be having a lot of sex soon. I'm wearing one all week, just in case. Something happens, I'll be protected. Yeah, they sell condoms in gas station bathrooms, just in case you forget to bring one, but always carry $1 worth of quarters. And they're never the type you'd find in stores. They're always the type of condom you get if your last stop before having sex was a Super America on Rice Street. Called like Rough Riders. Come with the first aid kit. Some of those are flavored, and that blew my mind. Because ladies, I didn't know your vaginas could taste anything. You want this back? They're still probably the healthiest thing you need at a gas station, though, if you're So it's wear, though. Just wear a condom. You start to have sex with someone, but a few minutes in, take it off. Because pull-out method just as effective at preventing pregnancies. They don't tell you that. And As long as you don't have your residuals in the chamber, you'll be all right. And even if you do, if you go fast enough, you can beat that sperm to death. Anyways, I quit my job a few months ago, and having no job, I feel sort of free. You know, but not free like a bird, free like a couch at the end of a driveway. Worthless and depressing to talk to, but it does help if you've worked somewhere that's worse than you are when you don't have a job. I was doing construction in the winter time, believe it or not, and I don't think many of you believe that, but that's what I was doing. I didn't fit in, because those guys, they use phrases like a cunt's hair and saw the fuck out of it. I came in with a vocab that included a wee bit and a smidge. They adjusted their language. They started to refer to an eighth of an inch as Mike's dick. And the best part of your day is putting on chapstick. Like, where do you go? How do you start to make it better? But I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about being a man. You know, stuff like powering through emotions and being hungry all the time. And a shart. I never had a shart before, but I know them pretty well now. If you don't know what a shart is, the ingredients are overexertion and gas station cookies. Make one at home if you want. Just hungry to those and try to lift a granite countertop. You'll figure it out. Jesus was a carpenter, and I get it now. Because he learned to carry wood while bleeding. Too soon? I'll move on. So I'm from the suburbs, that's where I grew up, and there's an attitude when you live in the suburbs, people are afraid of the city. Like, you'll be driving around St. Paul, they're like, dude, we're in the ghetto. I was talking to a friend, we were talking about going to Minneapolis at 10 at night. This guy goes, I don't want to get raped, dude. Like, who's going to rape 3 dudes? 5 dudes? What's going on out there, man? I don't know, yeah. Friends are dumb. My friend, he recently asked me, hey, dude, if you could have sex with any celebrity, who would it be? Like, I don't have an answer for that, because I can't imagine a situation where that would be consensual. What world do you live in where Large Marge from Pee-wee's Great Adventure have sex with me? I do live in the city now, and I'm learning a lot. I'm getting rapped at in the streets. I don't know if this has happened to you, but there's definite rapping and eye contact, and they're moving in your direction. This dude came up to me, he's like, fake motherfuckers trying to cock block, see? Fake motherfuckers trying to cock block me. You don't know how to deal with that? I waited for a little bit, I didn't see any fake motherfuckers. So I asked myself, am I a fake motherfucker? No, I'm as real as it fucking gets, I got a pin. I saw a cougar on the street too, and not like an animal, but an older lady who picks up young guys. And it might as well have been a real cougar, because I handled it the same way. So I moved out of my parents' house, they're getting old. I get letters from the AARP, and I know that stands for something, but it's also the sound old people make when they die. That'll happen eventually. And my grandma has tremors, which is kind of hard to watch, because it's a VHS copy. VCR anymore. And I moved into a studio apartment, and they call it a studio, they don't call it a no bedroom, because it's really what it is. You know, it's a studio, it's a space to practice and explore the art of failure. Doing pretty well. I got to buy my own food, and I'm realizing I don't shop for the person I am, I shop for the person I should be. Because I go to this store, I get like grapes, lettuce, fish, and I get home and eat around all that stuff. It's not a good way to live. Most things in my apartment, I look at it like I gotta get my shit together, because there's a weight bench I eat my dinner on, there's the condoms I bought last February, books I've read the back cover of, and there's the gun I stare at every each day. And they'll use it to restore the Constitution. I don't like going to the grocery store. You gotta make choices between things, and they're not even real choices. I was buying pasta sauce. I had to choose between home style and traditional. I stared at it for about like 5 minutes before I realized this is the same stuff. And I looked on the side, and it was the same ingredients. There was like tomato, sugar, spice, and it said contains 1% or less of the following, and then a list of poisons that sound like Harry Potter spells. Sodium, aluminum, petroleum. What does that do? It probably kills rats in a laboratory. I messed that up. She left. I got the fun thing. It's kind of a weird relationship we have with rats, because nobody likes rats, but everything we use goes through about a pile of dead rats before it gets to us. And some stuff it says no animal testing on it. You're like, oh, that's nice. Who the fuck are you testing it on? Testing it on me right now? And the stuff that doesn't say that, you got to deal with the fact it's probably rubbed in a bunny's eyeball. So what do? You just buy it. I can't make this stuff. I'm not useful. And sorry for saying that, guys. Some people are environmentalists. I don't know if you're those people. I think there's not enough animals. We got to save the animals. I'm not one of those people. I think we have enough animals. We can afford to lose a few. And I also feel that way about college students who jaywalk. Enough of them. You can get a permit. You can take a few out. Maybe more of them next year to replace the overall population. Just follow the laws. If it's red, stop. If not, you got the right of way. We're going to call it going green. We're going to go green and call it green. That's it. So I was bullied in high school and junior high and earlier today. And I don't get too hung up on any of that. Because those same people, they thought I was a loser. They said I wasn't going anywhere. They said I was gay. They're doing the same stuff, same jobs, same town, same bars. You know what I'm talking about, the teachers. Joke's on them, because I'm not gay. I would be gay if I listened to my health teacher. She said, these days, when you have sex with someone, you're not having sex with them, you're having sex with everybody they've had sex with, right? So, like, I think I'm having a moment with a lady. Turns out I'm fucking 29 dudes. I feel like a warrior, but it's kind of gross. It's always a little weird when a girl sees you for the first time. It's like, you don't know if she's going to text you back. That's it for me, guys. Thank you.
All right. That was great.
Thanks.
We'll get all official now.
Okay.
That's what we're not doing yet. Oh, yeah, let's spin this. Technology, you know, speeds everything up. All right. So just to remind everybody, right? The point of this is this rethinking success, and so maybe our first question should be: are you successful?
I think I'm doing all right. I mean, I think with some like the comedy, it's very progressive. But as long as you're on top of it, you know, you're moving. Yeah.
Fair enough. What year did you graduate, Denver?
I graduated 2011.
2011, just general transfer, or did you have focus?
No focus. It's AA degree.
What were your favorite classes?
Jeez. I liked calc. Believe it, you know.
Calc?
I like calculus. I like,
Yeah, calc.
I like pre-calculus. I just, you know, I would spend hours trying to do that every day. So it was like real disciplined work, and I thought that was interesting. But it's kind of sucks, because after you're done with it, you can't turn it off. So you just end up, you know, trying to figure stuff out too much. But while you're doing it, it's nice.
Sounds a little like philosophy, right?
Yeah, philosophy was nice. I had changed in philosophy, so I got to throw that one in there. And, what's up?
Well, so you went to U, right? What did you study there?
Econ.
Econ.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you're a con.
Yeah.
So, do you use it at all?
The econ degree?
Yeah.
No.
No? What were you thinking when you got the econ degree?
It's some parental pressure, you know, just to like get a degree. So maybe if I do this, and I don't have to go back when I'm a little later, just get it done with.
Just in case, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how did you get into stand-up? How does that happen?
You know, I wish it was something cooler, but I was 19 and my grandma told me of a class, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then I went to the class for about a month and started writing and performing ever since.
There was a class?
Yeah, it was like a community ed class in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. On how to be a stand-up?
Sort of, yeah, it's like introductory to stand-up.
Well, there's one. We could add that to the... so where have you performed besides Minnesota?
I've done, you know, odd gigs in northern Wisconsin. I've done North Dakota. I've been to the North Dakota, a wonderful state. So I'm pretty big.
Do you feel any difference in the crowds between like, I mean, they're all kind of Midwestern.
You know, I gotta say that you'd think these small towns would have kind of maybe a judgmental, conservative approach, but I find that a lot of small towns, unless they're in northern Wisconsin, are pretty good. Yeah.
What about Minneapolis crowd?
Yeah, also very good. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't want to get to it.
So how do you deal with like a down audience? Like the audience just isn't.
They're not there.
They're not there. They're not there.
I open really aggressively and I say controversial things. Yeah, it's really, it gets their attention at least. You know, and when they're down, it's, you know, a lot of it's in a bar gigs or something like that. You know, somber people or people who aren't listening, so you almost have to scream inflammatory remarks into a microphone and then take them back, you know, so.
Then take them back.
Yeah, well, I'll say it, but I have a line I start some gigs with, and it's I hate gay people, not for any particular reason, I just wanted to get your attention. So I don't establish myself as a bigot, but I do, but then the background.
What do you like least about doing stand-up?
Good question. It's not a waiting around, you know? It's not a downtime, which is nice, but you fill it with whatever, but maybe having to sit through a lot. You have to sit through a lot of stuff in order to do like 5 minutes of stuff. You know, if you're trying stuff out at open mics or doing that, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of waiting, which you can make the most of, but that's probably the
biggest pain.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side, that's what you like most about it.
I like performing. I like writing jokes. I like to come up with a good joke. I like to do that as much as I can until I get sick of it and then move on to the next thing.
So that's so how do you come up with it? You sit and write? Like, do you have the time to sit for writing, or is it just spontaneous?
Well, I try to make it a point to write. I don't have a shift I bestow upon myself, but I do that, and then sometimes, you know, you're just thinking about stuff, and stuff comes together, and you write that down.
But you always have your pad with you? Is that?
I usually have something with me, yeah. Usually have something in a pen.
And since, this is a little sidebar, because there's been discussion about writing notes versus like just recording them. Like why not just save them to a phone? What's the difference? Is there a difference?
Mm-hmm.
Because wouldn't it be easier to get your phone and just like say it?
Yeah, I found there is a difference, and I actually would prefer the phone approach, because when you write, something gets lost. It depends. At least for me, you know, if I have an idea and then I write it down, all of a sudden there's a different way I process it versus if I were to say it out loud. And that's a great way to do stuff. Is if you have an idea, if you tell it to another person, even if you don't feel it's perfect or if it's unfinished, it just something comes out of you, and you have to try harder. There's something different that moves, and I think that's the most effective way. Is if you have an idea and you just try to do the best version of it at that point to someone else.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, at what point? I guess it's kind of a weird question. At what point will stand up? I mean, how much is the idea to become famous? Open up a club? Just do it for now? I mean, what's the long-term view?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's a Minnesotan thing, but I don't strive to be famous. I mean, I think it's
as a Minnesotan, you as the passive aggressive. I want to be famous, but not want to be famous.
I don't know. I guess I don't have those. I don't set those expectations for myself because I feel like as long as I'm true to what I'm doing, I think it'll manifest whatever that's worth. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of I've always been drawn to stand-up, and it seems like it's a make or break. It seems like it's a very fine line between the stand-ups that make it,
yes,
and
yeah,
the rest.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the very rich, successful people, but there are a lot of comedians who are able to make a living in the middle area, but they usually have some credits, some credit.
And that's, I guess, kind of how do you go about marketing yourself? Do you do that, or do you have an agent? Or?
No, I do it. A lot of it's social media, Facebook and stuff like that. A lot of it is just, not my doing, but the places I work, they bring in the crowds, and I just perform for them.
Cool. And you, right now, you're emceeing at Acme?
Yeah. I'm MC at Acme Comedy Club. I do that every 5 weeks about, and I work at some of the other clubs around town.
Cool. Well, that's the beginning of basically the outline of our question. Should we open it up and see what the audience has?
Sure, yeah.
So what do you guys questions for our esteemed guest, Mike? It's early. Exactly it sounds, right?
Yeah.
Because they misspelled it on the pad on my sheet. But early, just like sound.
Oh, yeah, that happens. That happens.
Yeah.
She's just getting a drink of water.
She's just getting it. They have a lot to
So obviously you're a comic now. Do you look back and almost like regret going to school, or do you think it was worth going even though what you do now isn't what you learned?
Oh, no, I don't regret going here at all.
Okay.
And I say that truthfully. I really liked this school. I liked the way it was. And the U of M, maybe sort of. I don't know. Maybe it was just too big for me. It was kind of I didn't like it.
Okay. So if you had to do over, you would probably still do the invert, but maybe skip the U?
Maybe skip the U.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds, I think most people think the exact opposite. Right? I mean,
Like, what?
well, in the sense that I think most people look back on, like my career, right? I did a transfer degree, but nobody's ever asked me anything about that, ever. I hate to be there bad news, right? Ever.
Oh, about your transfer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always about the other degrees behind it. And you regret things, but it's rare to hear that, you regret the bigger school versus the small school, I guess.
Yeah, that may be in part because I didn't go on and utilize, try to market that degree to people. But as far as the quality, I feel like Imperials.
So if we can follow that reasoning, if you'd had a degree in something useless like philosophy, you wouldn't have worried so much about not utilizing it.
I don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what would you tell someone who is going down a path, say a more practical major path, let's say like nursing, but they have, let's say they like art a lot. Mm-hmm. What would you tell someone who is pressured by their parents to go into a more practical field?
Oh, well, you're 18, you can make your own choices. I maybe wouldn't tell them that, but you should know that. I guess I wouldn't. I went through Inver. I went through the U of M. I worked at a grocery store for like 7.5 years during all that. So I mean, this wasn't like I wasn't life or death comedy when I woke up in the morning. So I think there's something to be said about having your feet in a few different places. That's where a lot of stuff I talk about comes from. It's places I ended up that weren't ideal, but I found the most of them, most in them. But I will say that, like, I did work construction a few months ago, almost a year ago, and right now I'm working with that company to make videos to promote them, and in like a comedy sense. So that if you have your eyes open, you're gonna find opportunities with whatever skill set you have.
So how'd that come about, by the way? How did you go? How did that? They just knew you did stand up?
Yeah, they knew I did stand up. And I found out they had kind of a high turnover in the field because people, they join construction and they're like, I'm gonna have fun in the sun, I'm gonna work outdoors, it's gonna be amazing. And then 2 days in, they're like, I gotta get out of here. They stop showing up, so it's just kind of a sinkhole for money for them. So I thought if I could make a video that would portray it in an honest light and make it funny and entertaining, which is what I think would communicate well to people who would be interested in that sort of work, I think they could maybe help that problem.
So like, do you have an example of how, like a point you make in those videos that shows this is good work except it sucks? 'Cause that's basically what you're saying, right? It's good work, but you're gonna hate it. I mean, how does that come across? How do you get that across?
Basically the video is set up to me describing what it's been like 4 months in, and I think when you do something like construction, there's so much stress initially, and if you don't have anything to identify with, it can be even more stressful. Because you're like, this must not be for me. But what's an example of it?
Well, it sounds like misery loves company is what the example is. Everybody's suffering with you, don't feel bad, right?
It's fairly optimistic. It's not me in a basement, reciting.
Or carrying a cross.
Yeah, right.
Other questions? I saw a couple hands over.
So could you maybe describe the passion you have for comedy work in particular? Because I know that like a lot of comedians kind of see their work as extremely important. They're making people happier. They're giving the people the feel good sensations of life. Can you attest to anything like maybe?
How I view what I do?
Yeah.
I think there's I like to do it while I'm doing it. So that's like the main driver. I do find value in it, but I'm not a Kanye West type who just thinks he's God and is doing the most important thing in the universe. But I think there's definite value to being able to relate to people and present things in a way that's I've always thought that like I guess my the vision is like if I can kind of be who I am to a maximum possible extent, that'll show other people it's cool that if they feel out of place or if they feel like they don't fall into kind of the normal ways of viewing things, that's okay that they don't either.
Do you think that's a common thread within comics? Because that seems to be kind of comics. I was going to I sidebarred it, but I was trying to think of good-looking comics.
Yeah. I'm sure I came right in.
And it's tougher than it sounds, yeah. But I mean, it seems like there's something. Is that something that you find? Because you know a lot of comics, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you find kind of unifies a lot of them?
Uggos?
Well, not Uggos per se, but more that kind of that feeling of maybe not fitting in.
Yeah, I would. I'd say that. But then it's kind of strange. You have people a bunch of people who have never fit in, and they find each other, and then they fit in their own groups. And I'm not, I tend to stay away from groups, but.
Not Benjamin Drags kind of guy?
No, I don't know, but.
No.
Never playing, maybe I am.
No, you're not. How many you want? I should be careful there, please. Is there something
They're
there?
not going to do shit.
Oh. Okay, I'll read that. Your response to the question of what you like least is that you hate waiting. That implies that you are impatient. And you think that is an undoing attribute. Wow, that's right. Strikes right to the
Yeah,
bell.
that's beautiful. Poetic. Oh, okay. So you? All right. Yeah, I'm very impatient. No, that's a good question. I am patient because, look, I don't think, maybe I am. Maybe I am. And I suppose I have a whole justification about why that's okay, because I do it, a few times a week, you have to wait for hours. My impatience. Yeah, maybe. I'm just a little restless. Is that the same thing? Am I lying to myself?
Well, why is being impatient an undoing attribute, right? What's wrong with impatience?
First of all, what is an undoing attribute? What is that?
Yes, that's what I kind of looking at too. What is an undoing attribute? Something that negatively affects your
Undoing attribute.
authenticity?
Negatively? Oh, and does it being impatient, if I am, affect me negatively? Yeah, I mean, if I can enjoy waiting, I think my life would be better.
Traffic would be easier.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah.
Is there a line in your comedy that you just won't cross? Like, maybe a vulgarity line or like a, I don't know. You went pretty far with like saying the C word and stuff like that already, but
Sure.
is there like a line that you won't cross,
C
like
word,
something
what is
you won't say to get a reaction?
Yes and no. I would say no, not as a rule, but you know, I think there's varying degrees of the quality of what you can say. You know, so if it's just purposeless, if it's not, if it's like just dirty for the sake of being nasty or something like that, it's just like I don't like to do that. But I'm also very conscious of what most people, how the climate changes, because I think now I think that line's being pushed further, things are becoming more offensive to people.
Really? You think they're becoming more offensive?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, or maybe I think so, and there's certain issues that are, and it all depends on who it is. I think most people aren't in that boat, but there's a vocal group of people who say, oh, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. And,
So you mean more like topics, or because he was mentioning kind of words, right? Like shit's not even a bad word anymore, right? I mean, that's just a word. Fuck, all right, that one people kind of hesitate.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really. That seems like you're pushing the line there.
Yeah.
But you sound like you're talking more about the people aren't angry about that; they're more angry about topics. Is that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Topics, or you can't talk about genders in the abstract. It's almost like you have to be like, well, some people are. You got to be more specific, I guess. Nowadays, you can't generalizations are kind of out the window.
So basically, 80s comedy just couldn't exist.
In today's environment, yeah.
Because that's what made those guys famous, was their great ability to generalize. Like, I think like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And they've thrived on that generalization,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're finding, I hear you saying is you can't do that now. That comedy just doesn't fly, or doesn't.
Yeah, it's more difficult. Almost like things.
Do you think it's a Midwestern phenomenon? Do you think if you were like in New York City, you'd have that?
No, I don't think it's Midwestern. I think it's.
It's nationwide.
I think it's actually probably more New York City than it is here, but the influence is spread. That's my theory, at least.
Interesting.
So, as a comedian, do you find yourself to be naturally funny? Like, were you funny as a kid, like in high school or middle school, or like, is this something you kind of like developed into becoming? Like, is it like a light switch for you? Like, you're not actually funny, like, if you're not performing, and like you just have to turn it on when you do shows?
Well, to be honest, I think I'll try to answer that. I think growing up, I wasn't a class clown. I was kind of introverted, and at least in public. But if I was forced to do a speech, which you are in school, you're forced to get in front of classes, then I would, something about the way I interacted, my nerves or something, people would like it, and that was enough to show me that, like, okay, maybe there's something here. But yeah, I guess around my friends and even just writing, I was kind of a computer nerd growing up for a few years, and like internet forums, you come up with all this, bunch of trash and then post it online. And that what I thought was fun. I always enjoyed writing. I always enjoyed doing that, despite it being a big hurdle, like to get in front of people. It was a lot at first. It takes a lot, and then you get used to it. But I liked it in the past. Once it was done, I was like, that was fun. And you had, what was your last part of your question?
Oh, like if it was like a light switch, like if you're not actually like funny or like.
You turn on and off.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And one thing I think doing this has helped with is the need to constantly try to be funny, because there's an outlet for it now. I mean, I always like to do it regardless, but maybe the pressure to do it everywhere is subsided, and that's kind of nice.
But then the irony would be, right, if you did get famous, then you get sucked right back into that always being funny. Because one of the critiques you always hear from famous comics is they're expected to always be funny. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of, that's kind of interesting in the way the world works.
Yeah.
Chuck, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I've always thought that there's this weird connection between being kind of dark and maybe angry, I don't know, but there's some kind of connection between darkness and comedy.
Yeah.
And do you see that in your experiences and with other comedians or with your own comedy? I mean, do you think having a kind of a dark psyche or dark personality, or almost being, you talk about yourself being introverted as being a fuel for sort of overanalyzing and thinking about things to an extent that maybe a lot of people don't, kind of puts you in a unique position to be able to make interesting statements in your own material. I mean, is there some kind of connection you would generalize?
Generalize about comedians and being dark people?
Yeah.
If you look at least in my experience, the people that I've run into who are comedians, there's a lot of them that are, they're kind of downers. You know, they're dark, and they, some of them are, big into drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And that's part of it. Part of it is there is this lifestyle that you're allowed if you do this. It's acceptable to get wasted every night. It's acceptable to do all that stuff. And that tends to attract, I think, those sorts of people who would be into that anyway. So I think that part of it is that. And yeah, I guess as far as the people who are like headliners and successful comics that I've experienced, there tends to be some personality traits. They tend to be pretty insightful. They tend to be insightful and maybe a little more reserved. And I think they have an appreciation for dark comedy and maybe but I guess I've met comedians who weren't dark and they were great. They were great, but they were aware that they weren't like glass half full type people. They're just more realists. Is that good enough?
No.
I guess I would also push that, and is there a link between darkness and intelligence too? I mean, there has to be, you have to be somewhat intelligent to be dark, right? I mean, isn't that right? Can I say that? I mean,
No.
I can? Well, because, I mean, right, the gift of blankness, right, makes everything seem bright.
The gift of blankness.
Makes everything seem bright.
Seem bright.
Hashtag that.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know, I've always found, it seems to me that comics tend to be intelligent people. That seems to be a kind of, some of the redneck comedy aside, but even that's got this, they still see, right? They see something other people don't see. And I guess that's why I always measured intelligence, was to be able to see what people see. So, and then I guess the darkness thing seems like that too. Is there anything? Yeah.
You said you really like math in school. Is there like an equation that you use for a lot of your jokes that you just kind of generally throw in?
did I throw it in? No, it's very kind of, for me it's just kind of an intuitive thing. I don't plug, I don't Mad-Libs my jokes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know for some comedians they kind of go like clean, like for instance like Jerry Seinfeld. Would you ever, if let's say someone asked you to do a clean gig, a place, would you take it?
Yeah. That's
Yes. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, I think I got nothing to, yeah, I mean, if I can do it and do it in a way that, yeah, I'd do it. I'd take a clean gig.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess when I hear that question, I hear, and I was a huge Eddie Murphy fan in the 80s, his critique of Bill Cosby, calling him up and saying, you gotta clean up your act. And then of course Richard Pryor, well, tell me to have a Coke and smile and shut the fuck up. I mean,
Yeah.
I just kind of, so, and I hear the question, I guess if I was in your shoes, two things. One, you're getting paid, I suppose, you gotta get paid. This other point, though, if I was famous, maybe you can say this, if you were famous and you could choose your own gigs, would you still accept that gig? They said, well, we want you to come and do something, but you gotta clean up your act.
Oh, if I had it.
But you're already successful, you already made a right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I would have, depending on the material I had available. You know, there's clean jokes that I like to say because I think they're funny. I don't think being dirty makes someone, yeah, but
But you don't have any personal hang up with them asking you to clean it up. You don't think comedy should be free in that sense.
oh, no, I think people should be able to get what they want, and if they want clean, you can find that.
So comic attendees are customers.
Well, the people who book it are, I think, people who are in charge of,
So you consider yourself a commodity? Or have you ever thought of yourself as a commodity?
I think it's good to have some objective awareness of what you do, you know? If you're,
Sure.
it's, I guess I don't view myself in third person, but I think,
You said you talk to yourself a lot.
I do talk to myself, yeah.
But it's not the third person.
No, it's very first person. Scenarios.
Fair enough. Any other? Yeah.
How do you handle public speaking? Do you get uncomfortable around audiences, or do you thrive off of the energy of other people?
I think it's taken some time, but I think I thrive off people who are, it's a very excited audience. I think it's kind of a two-way street where they kind of fuel what you're doing. And I can also go in front of, 3 people and talk about dogs, or even if I'm not, were you speaking as far as comedy goes? Or?
Yeah. Like in general too, but like when you're speaking in front of an audience, you just feel more confident once you're actually speaking, or do you like have the nervous tension of, oh God, what am I doing in front of these people?
I don't have that, but I've had that a lot. I mean, I think a few years back, I was in a contest at the Mall of America, and did the final round, and there was a lot of build-up in my head because it was something I had time to think about. And it just hit me like, what am I doing? And I was like, I'm going up there for like 9 minutes to make strangers laugh. I got like a moment of like, this is ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but just kind of you realize what you're doing. Versus when you're fully in it, you don't really think about it. You're just worried about how you're going to make this next this performance work. That all right? All right.
Yeah, you.
That's it.
As long as you.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think that's the same with lecture. A lot of times I'm like, I can't say this, and actually, let me share something.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What the hell? It's Nietzsche when I do. Beyond. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you ever had to cut like a routine or something short because the audience was so hostile or so unresponsive?
I think I've done that before. We've done that before.
Yeah, you cut them short before?
Yeah. It's like I could get out of here, so I just wrap it up. But I think a good example is last week I had a gig and I show up. It was at a coffee shop out past St. Cloud, and I show up and I had a few people come out to see me, but the vast majority of the people there were doing homework on their laptops. And it's just like an ambush show, which part of me feels bad about because it's like, hey, productive people using their minds, here's TV. But I had that tendency, was in me to be like, all right, I should just stop. But I kept going for about an hour, and I'm glad I did. And I think a big part of being a comedian is being able to do that. Because you know, you have to. It's not always going to be great. You have to work with what's available. But yes, there have been times in the past where I'm like, I'm just going to wrap up.
That'd be the hardest thing, personally.
What?
An audience is just flat.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who's had a job before, everyone in normal jobs have to persevere through bad conditions. So I don't think it's too out of the norm to be like, well, it's your job, do it. You know?
Any other questions? Yeah.
I guess this was kind of already asked, but like, I know some comics, like, there's some like taboo topics, like rape and stuff, that they just won't touch. Like, then some comics, like Sarah Silverman and stuff, like, that makes it more okay to talk about, or like less taboo, you know? So it's like, I don't know, just curious what your take on that is.
On that sort of kind of that. Yeah, and believe it or not, she used to be a big advocate for that, and now she's since
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
backed off of it, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think things should be talked about, and as long as it's in a way that's not mean, and you know, there's
Exactly.
yeah, it's limiting to cut
Yeah,
stuff off.
I know a few comics, like some of them are like, it's anything's fine, and some are like, no, I won't touch that. But, you know,
Yeah,
just curious.
yeah, and I think it depends on who says it too, because
Yeah.
Well, on that note, what do you think? So you know about the guy they banished from Midgie last week? You heard about that, right?
yeah, Ralphie May.
Ralphie May. What do you think of that? So here's what we talked about this in class. That some of you might know. There was a comment to give. It was supposed to be scheduled in Midgie, and people reacted against it because he had some racist jokes and them not playing. So there's a backdrop. What's your take on that?
Well, don't get a ticket, I'd say. You know, it's not the government. I think it was the city came out and said, we're sorry for bringing this comedian in, but
That was always kind of my. So as a comedian, I wondered about how you thought.
yeah, well, my take, and I know comedians who would disagree with me because they fall into the category of wanting things to be a little more regulated and some things unacceptable. But my take is that, yeah, it's your job to make your decisions, and I mean, was it the city who apologized, you know?
Well, yeah. So it was the center in which it was being held was a center that was supposedly was built for like cultural purposes. So that was kind of this center can't host this comedian.
Oh, all right.
It was kind of the way they packaged it, but it really was just a subtle way of saying we just don't want you in the city.
Yeah, and I don't think it's bad. I don't think this city is your mom or dad, so you can make your own choices as far as that goes. And why does the city need to apologize to you for being offended?
Well,
Is it their job to not offend you?
Some people seem to think that is. Right?
Yeah.
That's the new movement. I mean, we face that even here. This idea that should school be about pushing what you know, or should school be about a safe place where you don't get offended?
Yeah, well, in some sense, that's the literal definition of politically correct, is people in politics being correct. So maybe it's a little more acceptable that maybe people aren't in politics doing it.
Yeah, I thought about it when I saw that. That just that how would a comedian or here. And he canceled shows all over too. So. Any other last questions?
What's your favorite comedian?
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
Favorite comedian?
Yeah.
I really liked Patrice O'Neill for a long time. There's a guy in UK called Dylan Moran. I like him, and Bill Burr. Some of the New York people. How about you?
Anybody likes comedy, it's laughter.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like Mitch Hedberg growing up. I was into Dane Cook like everyone else was.
Oh. Worst comic ever.
That's not true though. I've seen the worst comics ever.
No, I mean, I guess Dane Cook reminds me of Blind Squirrel, right? Every once in a while he finds him.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I for a while was like, Dane Cook stinks, and then I realized I'm only saying that because other people think Dane Cook stinks. And then I watched it, it's not the worst thing that ever happened to you, so.
He's not the worst. I was a big Bill Hicks fan.
Yeah, same here. I really like Bill Hicks.
And I still think, I'll just say it, I think the Eddie Murphy skit, his first one from '83, is the single best stand I've ever done.
That's
From
great.
start to finish.
Yeah, I watched that maybe a few years ago, and despite it being old and comedy doesn't always age well, it was still great.
Yes. Now, of course, it's comic, that's the kind of comedy that sounds like it'd be hard to do today. It's the stuff he's doing in '83. You know, that's, you still relate with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. He is who he is.
He is. Of course, now he's not funny at all. But and one last thing, you said that there is a group of comics who want to kind of regulate. You said you've seen. They want to kind of close down those doors and stuff.
Yeah. It seems like there is yeah.
That can't be good for comedy, though. I mean, can it?
I don't think so. I think I think there needs to be some regulation. If something isn't funny, it's not funny. But
shouldn't the audience determine that?
yeah, I don't think it should be cool to not laugh at something for the sake of not laughing. You know, should have a sense of humor.
Well, if there's no last questions, I'll give me a round of applause for Mike. Thank you.